What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is JT, the Talking Head. You are the audience. Today, we're taking a look at the A24 Shop exclusive version of Robert Eggers The Lighthouse in 4K. Let's jump into it. So we're going to start with unboxing this really awesome set, and then we're going to talk about the film a little bit. So, first off, you have this outer case that's black, and on the back of it, you have like it's like a credits, and then there's the side of it. It actually slides out like that, and you get this book. And it says The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers, and it makes artwork on the front and back together. And so when you flip open the book to the first page, there you have your 4K disc and the title. And you've got all sorts of really cool stuff like dialogue from the movie, some storyboards. I think there might be a couple like essays about the film in here. Just really cool stuff. There's not all that much to it in this. It is a really neat set, and I like it a whole lot. It's a big jump in quality over the standard edition Blu-ray, which I actually have right here with the slipcover. The film itself looks awesome in 4K compared to the standard Blu-ray, but it doesn't say too much about it because the standard Blu-ray was an incredible looking film anyway. I absolutely love the way this looks on Blu-ray, but the HDR on this is where your money is really going to pay for it. The HDR is awesome. The blacks are black, the whites are white. It's really great. So The Lighthouse is a story of a man named Winslow who takes on a job as an assistant lighthouse keeper, or a wickie, played by Robert Pattinson, and his old demanding gaffer, Thomas, played by Willem Dafoe. The two men work in isolation on the rock, tending to the lighthouse. They become stranded there when a giant storm hits the sea, and they realize that their relief is not coming anytime soon. Both men descend into drunken depravity for days on end. Winslow starts going mad, tempted by the charms of the lamp in the lighthouse which Thomas guards under lock and key. Through drunken nights and twisted tales, Winslow's less than savory past starts to catch up with his mental psyche, and he starts to break, turning on Thomas in fits of paranoia and rage. So The Lighthouse was the first movie from Robert Eggers that I'd ever seen. It came out back in 2019. Watched it as soon as it came to Blu-ray. I was very much looking forward to it, and to be honest with you, I didn't get it the first time that I watched it. It wasn't until I watched the film again on this new 4K scan, because I just really wanted to see how it looked in 4K, and I really liked the set, that I kind of understood like the underlying themes of the film, which are like isolation, madness, masculinity, sexuality, mythology, and yearning or coveting. Like Winslow, he draws comparison to the Greek god of fire, Prometheus. Prometheus stole the flame of Olympus from the Olympic gods and gave it to humanity. The light that glares off of the lighthouse, the light that Winslow covets so much, is symbolic of that fire that Prometheus stole. This reference is echoed at the end of the film when, spoiler alert, I'll give you about 5 seconds. When, spoiler alert, Winslow is being pecked to death and eaten alive by seagulls. If you know anything about the story of Prometheus, Prometheus's punishment from Zeus was that he was to be chained to a rock. The lighthouse is on this big rock. He's to be chained to a rock and have his liver eaten out by an eagle. The eagle is the symbol of Zeus. The seagull is the symbol of the sailor. Robert Pattinson's character, Winslow, profusely disrespects seagulls and sailors throughout the film. With Prometheus, every time that his liver was pecked out and eaten by an eagle, it grew back, so the eagle could eat it again, and it was a never-ending torment for Prometheus. And just repeated the cycle. I really think that this story overall is about the weakness of man, and I use the weakness of man as a reference to mankind. I mean, women, children, everybody can have these kind of weaknesses. All men, all people will eventually break under isolation. All men are susceptible to drink. All men seek companionship desperately. These are what the lighthouse really is about: seeking companionship, finding companionship in a very, very isolated situation in which your mental psyche is breaking. The theme of isolation in Eggers The Lighthouse really comes into play when you look at some of who Robert Eggers' biggest inspirations are, namely Ingmar Bergman, who did a very, very similar, like, themed film called Persona, that's about an actress who is having a mental breakdown, and she pretty much loses her voice, and she's prescribed to go and stay at a beach house until she's cured in isolation. So it's her and a nurse that goes with her, two women stranded alone, and madness starts to sink in. By the end of this movie, you're not sure who's real, who's dead, who's what, kind of like The Lighthouse. Both stories are very reminiscent of the story The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, which in a woman who we're perceived to name by the end is her name is Jane, but we don't know through the entire story. She's actually never technically mentioned, but I'm just going to call her Jane, is suffering from PPD, postpartum depression. And this story was written in the late 1800s, so the late 19th century. And Perkins, this is like kind of based on a true story of Perkins' own account, but in the story, The Yellow Wallpaper, Jane was married to a doctor, and that doctor prescribed her what was called a rest cure, wherein she had to have as little physical and mental activity as possible. She rented out a country house, and she stayed in a nursery with this hideous yellow wallpaper, and it began to drive her mad. The isolation drove her mad. I'm not going to spoil The Yellow Wallpaper for you. You can find it online. I highly recommend everybody read it. It's a great feminist story. It's a great story about postpartum depression. It's a great American Gothic story in general. Highly recommend that one. But that's where the kind of, to me anyway, as far back as I personally have read, that is where these kind of stories of isolation and loneliness and the seeking of companionship and creativity and expression really come from, is back as far as The Yellow Wallpaper. And then I don't know if Bergman ever read The Yellow Wallpaper. It would make sense if he did, but Robert Eggers clearly took a lot of inspiration from Bergman's Persona in this film. Overall, I found Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse to be a thrilling Gothic tale that hits on mythology and the true spirit of the seaman. Pattinson and Defoe are both brilliant, and they give unhinged portrayals of Winslow and Thomas. And the film's dark cinematography is beautifully done in the black and white. It really pops even on the Blu-ray, and if you get this 4K version, the HDR, I'm telling you, the HDR is what you are buying. In addition to that, there are new bonus features. I have a list down here of the new bonus features that are on this. Comes with instruments and inspirations in the studio with composer Mark Corvin. This was produced in 2023. Outfitting the Lighthouse with costume designer Linda Meir, also produced in 2023. Making the Lighthouse, produced in 2019, which I think that's on the Blu-ray. The deleted scenes are also on the Blu-ray. So yeah, two new like interview segment things about the soundtrack and the costume design of the Lighthouse. And if you know anything about Robert Eggers movies, his costume design is on point. It's impeccable with historical accuracy, even down to the kind of thread and the buttons they use. It has to be historically appropriate for everything he does, from The Witch to the Lighthouse to The Northman, and I'm sure to his new Dracula project that he's going to be doing. It's all going to be period accurate. The costumes, the set designs in a Robert Eggers movie are impeccable, and it's no exception for the Lighthouse. It's one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite up and coming filmmakers. I think that Eggers has like an insanely good future ahead of him in filmmaking and as a director and a writer. I've seen some of his short films, even his short films from when he was way younger. They came on the second sight version of The Witch behind me. Are awesome. They're really awesome. So there you have it, the review of the A24 Shop exclusive 4K edition of Robert Eggers The Lighthouse. This video has been really fun to make. I absolutely adore this movie. I give it a total 8 out of 10 for overall presentation. I give this set an 8 out of 10 as well. Um, but yeah, so if you liked this video, leave me a like, drop me a comment below. Let me know what other movies you'd like me to talk about, any other sets that you'd like me to try to get my hands on and unbox and review. Also, remember that I am found on multiple other platforms. In the description down below, there are links to TikTok, Twitter, Letterboxd. Come join us over there, especially on TikTok. I can't say enough. Our TikTok community, it's not just my community. It's the film talk in general is an awesome community full of awesome people making great content. I highly recommend you come and join us over there. But if not, you can go ahead and subscribe here. I give the more long-term content here. I try to post shorts here as well, so some of the content transfers over. But until next time, thanks for liking, watching, subscribing. See you later.